Shaun Casteel, Extension soybean agronomist at Purdue University. Our research in soybean production is about managing the risk, and so those risks can be associated with drought conditions, those can be associated with too much water, and so it's everything we can do to manage a risk that we don't know that's coming. And so one aspect of that is timely planting, or one aspect is the maturity group that we're planting, and then those interactions with nutrient management or foliar protection. All that comes into play with the season that we have, and so setting the crop up for the best yield potential and to be able to move that across the state. Yeah, drought can affect soybeans in a number of different ways. It depends on when it comes in. So if it comes in at the beginning of a season, we might get the benefit of a timely planting, but all of a sudden now we have roots that are dying, or we don't have good access to water, and so then we have issues with our nodulation. Nodulation is just simply the way bacteria infect our root hairs for nitrogen supply. We need nitrogen. It's a symbiotic, it's a good relationship, but if we don't have good root development, we don't have good nodulation and fixation of nitrogen from the atmosphere, so then we can get sold short on nitrogen. Soybeans need more nitrogen than corn, and so if we're sold short there, there's a good potential of having yield loss. That's kind of that early season. As we go into the middle part of the season, if we continue to have stress or drought stress that comes in, this is a point where that affects the amount of vegetative growth that we have and the amount of flowers that are starting to form. If we continue to have a drought, these beans are going to abort those flowers. They're going to continue aborting those, and so if you have flowers that are aborting, you don't have the opportunities for pods to be produced and don't have the opportunity for seeds to be produced. So the beauty of the soybean is that it can keep on aborting those flowers and probably flower for 6 or 7 weeks and to hopefully have rain come back. If it doesn't, then it goes down another level. It goes back to seed fill at the end of the season. So if we don't have good water supply there or drought conditions, our beans are going to be more like BBs instead of the gobstoppers. And so that's how we're going to get affected with drought conditions throughout the season. Yeah, so I think the big thing with soybeans is always to be out there scouting to see what's going on. So with the drought in particular, we're going to go out there, we're going to take issues with early season stand counts. Do we have any issues with those because of the dry conditions? And then share that. So whether that's sharing farmer to farmer, or have the extension educator or the crop consultant to relay that information. Hey, our stands aren't quite where they need to be, or we have some limited growth early on. We need to be mindful of this. We need to watch and see if there's any management that we can do later. And so in particular, something like a nitrogen stress that comes into play, what's going to be digging up those roots, going to take a look at those, see if we need to do anything. As we follow that throughout the season, I think that there's good conversations to be had with the farmer, with the crop consultant, educator, and even our marketers in terms of, okay, are we having as good of a crop as we think we have had, or is it getting sold short in terms of the production? If it is, we need to kind of go out there, do yield estimates, and then have an idea of how much is really there, so then I can either market that going forward, or I can look at some potential management. There's a few acres that do have irrigation, so they can turn that on in terms of during our reproductive phases. That's really the key part in terms of water supply and water use. So we want to make sure we have water during that period if you have access to it. And then otherwise, come harvest, if we know we've had a drought condition, let's be timely with the harvest so we don't lose out on any more yield potential than we have with dry conditions. Yeah, so during drought conditions, there's some issues that can come up, and I think these are good opportunities as we want to make lemonade when we're given lemons, so to speak. And so looking at the field, so if there's fields that tend to have issues during a dry condition, what caused those issues? So whether it was going into planting a little too wet, or we've done some tillage, and so you can see the passes where those tire tracks are at, that's something I want to look at, maybe fixing that or come fall, so whether it's tillage or just be mindful next spring whenever we go to plant, so then we don't have those same issues occur. A lot of cases during a drought, if we've compromised the plant early on with planting or passes across the field, that really shows up. It gets exacerbated in a drought, and so do everything we can to manage for that, and then if there's anything else on the field scale that we can change.